It tells us we're live, Adam. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Paul. Hey, look, my
I'm
name's
Adam.
Paul. What's your name? It's
My name's
right
Adam
here.
Vincent with Vincent Esquire, which might be that corner.
Yeah, that's corner. Yep, you got it right there. Cool.
Hey, thanks for joining us, folks. We'll let more
Thanks for
roll
joining
in.
us. Yeah, there'll be
this
thousands
fine
upon
Friday.
thousands probably waiting in line to try to get in here. Facebook's not even letting them. They're coming so quickly.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to be excited about today.
So we've continued on this theme of finding much more entertaining and distracting people than us. And this week we're very lucky on what are we calling this? We're calling this Learn a Little. We're calling it Here's the Deal. We mention our names, but we're happy, super happy to have Bryan Chavis on with us today. So what can you share about Bryan, Adam?
Bryan's a Florida guy, a good buddy of ours. We've met through actually his book, his widely known book on property management. He's got a couple actually, and we were reading them. We said, this guy really knows his stuff. How about that? And we were impressed. We reached out, become friends, and work together. And he's just an expert on property management of multifamily and other areas, but especially that. And has a couple of books that we'll talk about today. And just excited to talk to him about it because it's an area that's obviously very important on execution side. Once somebody does get that property under their belt, then what happens? That's always the next one.
Right. Oh crap! Now what?
Yeah.
So with that, since he's waiting for us, let's bring him in and we'll get rolling here. Let's see how it works. Hey, it works. Bryan, what's going on?
It works. Hello.
We're
Thanks
live.
for joining us, man. Happy Friday.
Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, so Adam was talking a little bit of how we bumped into you. So we're lawyers and real estate-ish lawyers and guys, and we do a lot of stuff in real estate. And I'll give you a little quick story that I think I rambled on to you before in the past, but I was driving down to Orlando with my family, and I needed a book to listen to. And I stumbled onto the Landlord Entrepreneur. And about 25 minutes in, which is usually when I delete the thing. It's not really worth it. Yeah, it's not really worth my time. I thought to myself, wow, I'm actually learning something here. And I feel like my mom gives me too many hugs. I feel pretty smart sometimes. And I was like, hey, I keep learning all this great stuff. And this guy is super nice and knowledgeable. And I'm surprised he's sharing all this great stuff in a book. And then I Facebook messaged you, and like a month later we were hanging out. So thinking back 2 or 3 years ago, whenever that was, thank you for the book. And then we're super happy you're on the show today.
Well, it's good to be here. It's we've both come a long way, even in a short period of time. 2 years, we've come a long way. It's funny, that book, The Landlord Entrepreneur, I think I wrote that book in 6 days.
Nice. Now we're talking.
Yeah. I think I wrote it in really 3.5, 6 days.
And I probably listened to it over probably 2 months. So.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. I'm glad you liked it. Took a whopping 6 days to get it to Simon and Schuster to meet the deadline. I think I waited to the last minute. I literally waited to the last week and didn't have anything but rough drafts. I'm like, all right, let me just go in for a couple of hours and bang this damn thing out. So, really probably had it banged out in 7 hours, 7-8 hours. But
yeah, let's not tell them. It was something you poured your heart into over months and months.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
The pouring the heart comes the 15, 20 years of actually doing that stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Writing about it is, that's easy. That's the easy part.
So why don't you get into that, Bryan? So you have Buy It, Rent It, Profit is your obviously the other biggie, and so just kind of talk about your experience that led to being able to write those sort of books in a week.
Well, Buy It, Rent It, Profit. Buy It, Rent It, Profit is a relative, not a distant relative, but I guess first cousin would be a cousin to an operations manual that I wrote and was selling out of the trunk of my car. When I first started, I was still in the multifamily industry back then. Still working a 9 to 5, I think managing over 2,000 units. here in Central Florida in the Tampa Bay area, and yeah, and I was writing this procedures manual, and wrote the procedures manual and started selling it at real estate investment groups out of the trunk of my car, and then one day it eventually became the what we now know today as buy it, rent it, profit, which is now in the U.S. Library of Congress, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it all started just out of the trunk of my car, and then that procedures manual got in the hands of Gary Sheffield. He was Alex Rodriguez and him, I believe, were teammates at the time. And of course, the Yankees, they practice here in Tampa. And so
Right.
Sheffield was getting involved with apartments in real estate because had a heightened interest because Alex was doing it at a really grand level. Really.
And he
really,
owns,
really,
well, I mean, he owns like a bazillion units, right? I mean, I don't know what the number is.
Like, he was doing it
like
before.
Tens of thousands of units.
This was before it's become so popular now. This is
right.
The vast majority of people really didn't understand apartments back when all this was going on, back when I was involved. But yeah, so Sheffield wanted to know about it, and so I we hung out for the summer, and or right before the summer, we hung out and during the spring training, and then a little bit during the summer, and yeah, that's kind of how that happened. He was writing his book, The Inside Power, and his publisher or his agent, his literary agent, was on the phone and was like, well, who's the guy that's kind of riding you around talking real estate? And he put me on the phone with him, and the guy was like, well, do you have manuscripts or anything? And I was like, yeah, I got something. Sent it over to him, and the rest was history. So landed Simon and Schuster, and that's kind of how that came about, which was another story for another time. It was a cool story flying out there in the middle of the holiday season, meeting with all of these big time publishers and signing end up signing with Simon and Schuster was a huge win for us. So it's kind of when it all started. That's when the brand started to, that's when it all started coming together. So.
Yeah, once you start going to New York City and Vegas, I mean, that's when you got
big time.
Start. Yeah, that's right. So let's talk a little bit about that manual. So as as I think anybody that owns anything understands, is that you don't really know what you don't know until you are owning it and finding out how complex things can be. So tell us a little bit about how you put this manual together, and then who were you selling that to out of the back of your car?
So what had happened was
there you go.
So I wanted to start a property management company, but working a 9 to 5 wasn't going to work, and starting my own. So I forgot. Story has it, legend has it, I think I was talking with someone that was homeless. I was coming out of an airport. I was waiting either waiting for another flight, waiting for the taxi, waiting. And I started just talking to a homeless dude. We had a conversation, and I don't know how we got on the subject. And he said something like, what do you, I was complaining to a homeless man about the stress of the property management. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I think he said something like, well, if you want to get your knowledge and you want to get something to the masses, you got to put your knowledge in a book. And it's just something like really quick, like that in conversation. And it just stuck with me. I'm like, man, put it in a book. And now you're talking to a guy that got through school because of sports. Got to college because of sports, didn't stay long, graduated with a special diploma, out of high school. I'm not, I'm a special education student. I'm not embarrassed to admit that. So writing.
Even though you're smarter than we are. So.
No, but I just outwork everybody. But writing a book wasn't something that I was, really, I felt destined to do. So, You know, it wasn't anything that was top on the radar. But then once I got to the 9 to 5 and I started thinking about it, I realized, you know what, I can probably write something. Let me just write a procedures manual. You know, the guy said if I wanted to get something to the masses, put it in the book. So I can't do property management because I can't manage everybody's asset. And that single family home hustle and everybody wanting to bring their duplex or single family, there's just too much work. So I was like, you know, I'll put all my information in the procedures manual and then do what I do in the multifamily industry, which is train the staff and on procedures manuals, which we'll get into in a minute. Wrote this manual, and then from there, that's kind of how it went. You know, let me write a manual for everybody that's in the industry and or anybody that's a landlord, and you know, and I'll teach them how I do it, how I do thousands of units on a daily basis. So if I can do 2,500, you know, 2,000 plus units, surely you can do two or three single family homes or a duplex or a small apartment building. Here's a procedures manual, leases, qualifying criteria, how to handle when the tenant doesn't pay rent, how to handle when the tenant has an illegal occupant. I mean, I went through every step just because it's second nature. When you're managing thousands of units and you have, you know, large amounts of staff, everything has to be procedures manuals. Everything has to be documented. Everything has to be a management plan. Everything is a plan, and then operating systems to support that plan to get you to the point A to point B. And really, it just started flowing. Once I started with qualifying criteria, it just started to boom. And then I just had this big old thick manual, and I just started selling that damn thing out of the trunk of my car. And lo and behold, people needed it because it had the leases. I was printing all the documents I had. So when you bought my manual for $250, by the way, now it's being sold on Amazon or in Barnes and Noble and all over the bookstores, airports for $17.99. So what a
those suckers back in the day.
Yeah. So I was selling it for $250. It came with all the forms. So these landlords were snapping it up. You know, all they had to do was plug and play. It had all of the leases, qualifying criteria, rules and regulations, had everything you need. Needed a 3-day notice, it was in there. Needed a 7-day notice, it was in there. Everything you needed was in this procedures manual. And then on the back, it showed you how to fill the form out, how to deliver it. So it was just like these guys, they couldn't miss with it. So that's kind of why I believe Buy, Rent, and Profit took off, because it's a first cousin to the manual, and that's how it was written, step by step, and then giving you all the forms and the examples on how to fill them out and how to run things day to day. So I think that's kind of what took off. Everybody else was talking about how to get rich in real estate, how to buy, how to evaluate markets, but nobody was talking about actually when you got it, oh shit, what do you do on Monday? And that's kind of where I came in. I filled a lot of those gaps, and I still feel like I'm doing that to this day. I still feel like everybody really focuses on the sale and markets, but don't really understand, you know, the operations. You know, when I say things like management plans or an asset manager, you know, people are, you know, I get vague looks. You know, everybody's so used to saying, I'll buy an apartment complex, and then you go find a property manager to manage the asset. You know, and that's kind of what they're being taught, because that's what the masses are being disseminated across social media platforms. Everyone thinks that's the right way to handle it, and that's just not the way I was brought up in the industry. So, you know, for me to fill the gap with procedures and manuals and training, you know, I feel even today is, you know, why I think the brand and the Bryan Chavis brand has done so well and continues to grow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, that's part of what we liked about it. You could tell you had all that hands-on experience with thousands of units, and then you were able to boil it down and help out, you know, the individual smaller owners and everything, and that's huge. And it's really interesting to hear how you turned that into a business, you know, years ago, where you were like, I'll take this knowledge I have, experience I have, and turn it into a product. You see that a lot more now with online education and webinars and that sort of thing. But it's cool to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were able to do that years ago, before this.
Before the internet.
Before the internet,
Yeah.
and back in the days of paper. Back in the
Yeah.
days.
You needed a trunk.
Cool.
I mean, you needed a car trunk, and then you needed paper. That's really
that's huge. That's cool, man.
Well, you know what you needed? You just needed hustle. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, I think for the most part, everybody is get an apartment complex in 60 days, become this in 120 days, and everything is so instant, and it doesn't work that way.
Nope.
Not long-term success. You can get rich doing certain things, but you're talking about building wealth and long-time, longevity, being able to partner with individuals, like I have as partners, very successful and influential people in their own right. To be able to get into the U.S. Library of Congress, there has to be a lot of substance behind what you do, and there has to be a proven track record. And I'm not the most popular because we don't preach to get rich. It's slow down, get your education, get your training, understand how to truly operate. So that doesn't resonate with everyone, but for those who it does resonate with, our people find tremendous success and have a successful track record, and are in the game a lot longer. And also they're able to navigate, situations like COVID-19, from which, my predictions right now are you won't really see the fallout for multifamily until somewhere around October, November, in response, direct response to COVID-19.
Yeah.
Yep.
So everyone is saying multifamily is doing so well, it escaped, or it still continues to perform. That's because the can has been kicked down the road. That's because I believe a lot of folks have been dipping into their savings and credit cards, but you're going to see where a lot of the money and the stimulus is going to be bottlenecked, and this you're going to start to see around October, November, and I forgot the name, special LSS, loan special services. You're going to see a lot of these assets move into loan special services, which will then move into the next step, which are foreclosures. So a lot of the banks have been not kicking the can down the road, but it's been the forbearance, trying to work things out. And I really believe you'll see probably a pretty healthy supply in respect to multifamily units, between 20 to 80 units. Between 20 to 80 is going to be the sweet spot, where the operators are not that sophisticated, non-institutional. And you'll see the banks, I think, because of their positions, be more willing to move those individuals out and get off their balance sheets, i.e. foreclosure. Less willing to work with individuals like that. So I think you're going to see some opportunities there, but you're going to see some distress, and you're going to see some market corrections in multifamily somewhere right around, for current operators, right around October, November, and moving into 2021.
Yeah, no, I think that's
spot on. That's
Yep.
just COVID. Has nothing to do with what I predict. What's going to happen in Washington if there is a change. At the address. I forgot what the address is at the White House. Whatever. What is it? 800 something. Wesley Snipes movie. Yeah. What was that Wesley Snipes movie? The address 800. Was it Pennsylvania?
I don't know. White man can't come. What's that got to do with the president?
1600 Pennsylvania. Yeah.
There it is.
They're all white, except for Obama. I guess they were all white guys, and they probably couldn't jump. So it could have been a Wesley Snipes reference.
I could have swore it was Wesley Snipes, 1600 Pennsylvania. I could have swore it was Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't know. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, there might be a change there, and if there's a change there, how is that going to affect things moving forward? So, there's a lot of question marks for operators right now, current operators. There should be question marks for anybody looking to acquire right now. You see a lot of folks posting stuff, acquiring stuff, and I'm kind of like, all of the high level minds that I speak to, everybody's kind of got the dry powder ready to go, but no one's really, interested in making any real moves right now. Everybody's kind of reading the tea leaves, so I'm kind of hesitant to be one of those that, unless the deal is just really sweet, it's just too many question marks right now.
Yeah, sure. Right. It's somebody that's done it a long time, like you in property management, it's almost like you can see around corners and see what the next problem is going to be. There's certain things that, regardless of your experience, you still have to kind of get a little more hands-on. One, I think, is tenant screening. So can you talk a little bit about some very basic but very important things to consider when you are screening a tenant, whether you own one single family or a duplex, or you're new to the 100+ unit game. What's some basic tenant screening stuff that you recommend people get their arms around and how they execute?
I would say so let's frame that in what will get you in trouble. So let's frame, because for the most part, people will skip over tenant screening and be like, hey, listen, let's move on and continue to scroll down right now, because since we're live on Facebook, they'll continue to scroll. I don't really need to know about tenant screening. It's not that important.
Yeah, right.
So let's talk about why it's so important from a liability standpoint. From a liability standpoint, even if you're not screening an individual based on credit or employment history or income verification, you need to screen them based on criminal. Because the reason being, the liability that you have moving a tenant in, let's say you moved a tenant in and you moved them in July. It's now going into August. There's a parking space that everybody keeps arguing over. The tenant you just moved in August, tenant A, we'll call him, argues with tenant B who's been there over this parking space. Tenant A, who you just moved in with, you just moved them in because they had the money and no real qualifying criteria or screening process, assaults, gets into a fight and assaults tenant B that's been there. Tenant B presses charges because they end up going to the hospital. Tenant B then hires an attorney. That attorney will not only sue the management company, but also sue the ownership based on liability because of the actual fight happening on the property. The liability for the owner and management company, there's a tremendous amount of liability, especially if you're not screening and you did not catch the fact that this individual had a history of assault on his record. So not screening, could have huge implications. And again, most people are like, well, that's just a story. But if I told you as an operator how many times in just 1 month where I have disputes between tenants, not all will end in some sort of physical altercation. But if I told you, if I had a dime for every time a tenant got into an argument with another tenant over a parking space, you would be shocked how often this really does happen. And sometimes it does escalate.
Humans are funny.
Yeah. So, the liability, if something should happen, someone gets shot. Nowadays, everybody's got a firearm. If someone were to get injured, killed, God forsake, that liability is on you. So just in terms of overall liability, from moving individuals in, God forbid, sex offenders, people with
sex offenders,
histories, all of that.
Yep.
All of that.
I think that means that
back to you.
If you do a bad job and you don't screen a tenant and it turns out they have some sort of terrible sex offender, I mean, that will drag your entire property down as far as it'll go.
Here's the thing. We're talking a property. That's the least of your worries.
Yeah, sure. Right.
The least of your worries. So let's say you own the property in your own name, right?
Yeah, right.
Or let's say you own the property in an LLC because you went to a boot camp and they told you how to put it in an LLC, and you do that, but you haven't filed your corporate minutes or your debit card to that LLC. You've been going to the mall and shopping and going and buying people this and buying that. What a creditor is going to do is prove that you don't have an LLC, that what you are as a sole proprietor acting like an LLC, and they're going to pierce the corporate veil. Once they pierce that corporate veil, your property being lost to you or to the creditor is the least of your worries, because if they're not satisfied, because if there's a slip and fall or someone who, God forsake, got killed, they're going to keep coming. And wherever your name is attached, well, you're like, well, you know what, Bryan, that's cool, but all my money is in with my wife. Well, wherever your name appears with your wife, spouse, girlfriend, mother-in-law, whomever, they can go after that and view that as a partnership. So if you have all your money in, or even if you have no money, right? And your mother-in-law has all the money because she just sold a house and she's sitting on $400,000, and she put you on the bank account so you can, you can pay bills, or you can help her pay bills, whatever it may be. If your name appears on that account, guess what? The creditor comes after that and pierces that. So they, you think the property is the least of your worries because of one slip and fall or one fisticuff fight, because you didn't want to do your homework and properly maintain a business and operate a business. You wanted to buy an apartment complex and get rich buying and owning apartment buildings, but you forgot that there was a business to be run. Or even if you hire a property management company and they're found to be negligent, the possibility of the lawsuit making its way to the ownership, there's a high probability there as well. So it's just all because of not screening. I mean, that's just I can keep going down that rabbit hole, but we don't have that time. But it just goes to show you how it can all unravel fairly quickly.
Yeah, liability, no fine. Lawyers, the worst.
Lawyers,
absolutely.
Yeah. So cool. So you got the books, Bryan. Talk to us a little bit about what else you're doing these days.
So the main thing
you've gone away from paper, I've heard.
We're yeah, right. We are launching the multifamily matrix, Bryan Chavis's multifamily matrix. There was a huge void, and that void was proper training and education, like I received in the industry. Through the CAM, Certified Apartment Managers course from the National Apartment Association. I spent many years teaching that as an instructor, all the modules. The level of training I just didn't see. You could go get a 4-year degree in real estate finance and real estate management. You can go to IRM and take all of those expensive courses, but I really didn't see any sort of certification or training. See a lot of boot camps on apartments, but no real training or certification. So as you guys well know, that's my background, creating training and certification. So for the last 2 years, I just been quiet, watching. I do my videos, but kind of really just been watching the landscape, and decided to launch a membership, Multifamily Matrix, which is a membership platform that allows individuals to pay a monthly membership, a low cost, as low as $59 a month, and have access to all of the training from underwriting, property management, asset management, maintenance courses, finance courses, entrepreneur courses on building your credit, personal goal setting, all the things you need to be successful. Real estate entrepreneur, you're going to find all revolving around, owning and managing multifamily units. So certifications, trainings, each certification has workbooks. Even our podcast that a lot of folks love, the By the Box podcast, will have workbooks that have been turned into training modules. So it's a learning path. And you start out with a learning path by answering a few questions. It determines where your level of your skill set is, and then it puts you on a learning path. And then that learning path will take you through obtaining all of these certifications and designations over a given period of time.
That's great. So we like your stuff because there's a lot of stuff you share with everybody. People can learn what they don't know, all the things they don't know. But you mentioned certification. So is that down in Florida? How's that work? What kind of certification do folks get?
Well, so really, it's a national certification that we offer. It's a national certification that we're offering through the Matrix. I feel like there's anyone can create a certification, call it a certification. But I feel since we got a book in the U.S. Library of Congress, why not? Why not? Come out with my own designation and certification. So I feel there's enough credibility there. And I also feel like for those who do offer certifications, they've underserved the vast 80%, the vast majority of real estate owners and operators. It's really only geared, certifications and trainings are really only geared to real estate professionals, brokers, and agents. Or if you're a member of of some sort of apartment association. But the vast majority of owners have been left out. And so that's the void that I wanted to fill. Where can an average individual go and obtain high-level certifications and trainings? And that's why I felt like it was needed to fill that void. But yeah,
that's great.
At the end of the day, it was why not me? So
yeah, no, for sure, man. And when is that baby live?
We're gonna launch the first week of August 2.0. So we've already moved up to about 40, 50 members that we've had, where we've just been really doing a lot of the what we call skill builder programs, which are really just one-on-one coaching. And I've been taking individuals through modules in the coaching. But now every one of those individuals are going to be transferred over into the new platform, the membership platform. That's going to be the first week of August, and we'll open it up to everyone starting the first week of August. So you'll start seeing some material and some free webinar explaining the matrix that we'll start launching, and hopefully get to you guys so you guys can kind of let some of the other your clients and some of the other gurus that you work with know about it, because I know even some of your experts and gurus like Tim, we can help them with filling the void with asset management and property management training as well. So we'll be getting that out to the masses and looking forward to working with a lot of individuals, helping them in their careers.
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to ask was, so are you, you're always getting deals sent along. What has kind of been what you've been seeing from lenders and things of how is lending harder? What is kind of their new criteria that you've been seeing so far?
That's a good question.
Tampa.
Actually. That's a real good question. I'm in Tampa, but obviously I'm national, so my ability to buy anywhere in the country or really anywhere in the world, I'm not limited to just the Central Florida market. With that being said, things that you got to kind of really prepare for. I think I kind of talked a little bit about November, December. I think most lenders realize that you're going to see a change in debt coverage ratios. Obviously, some of the bigger hits you're going to see are going to be in your insurance policies. I do see insurance rates going up because of having to cover, some sort of virus protection that are going to be added to a lot of your policies, driving policies up. So insurance companies have to kind of write that in. I mean, obviously your policy now is going to go up. So you're going to have to really pay attention. Operators going to have to really, probably come to the table in the near future with more than just some underwriting. They may have to come to the table and start coming to the table with a management plan in place to be able to show the lender that you have some, I want to say expectations for the property, but you have not only expectations,
that you actually have a plan,
a way to execute on those expectations. So, I do.
Yeah, you can't just, it's not going to be that you're just like, I'm just going to increase rent. Like, oh, okay, what the hell does that mean?
No. Here's my pro forma. Here's a model or a spreadsheet. This is what I'm.
This is what CoStar told me. Yeah.
This is some report, or this is what I got in a training. No, they're gonna want to see that somebody is a successful operator, and even I'm gonna have a property manager manage it for me. General partners, our general partners, syndicators, moving forward are gonna have to show or prove that they have some capability of really understanding how to be successful operators, and not just show an ability to be able to raise money, but they're going to need to be able to show an ability to actually get from point A to point B, because it will be more difficult moving forward in the near future. There will be some issues, like I said, coming in the beginning of 2021 at the operational level, and you're going to see things tighten. The unemployment is going to continue to be an issue. For the most part, I don't really think it's going to help, change prices all too much, because I do think the feds will continue to, how do I say this, influence a yield curve. So, and they do that by printing money. Yes. And I don't really think
giving it away.
Yeah, I don't really think, the big difference between, various recessions, even post 2008, and 78, 73, we are on the gold standard. You couldn't just print money. We're no longer on the gold standard. And so now, to avoid certain crises, the feds can just print money and lower interest rates. And that obviously increases asset prices and values. So they're able to do a lot of things to prevent a negative yield curve, i.e. recession. So they've got a lot of tools that they're using, but the main tool is they can print money anytime. They can flood the market with money, and they can pull money out anytime. So that's a great tool to have. The only thing we got to look at is the globalization effects that has. when it, when you're talking about it, I won't get too far in the weeds with this, but when you're talking about the influence of inflation, and what that would have on our market. So, just understanding that that could be the one thing that could do things in. But, for the most part, I don't really see interest rates rising. I think interest rates are going to continue to be where they're at. I think the feds will continue to help with stimulus packaging to help keep things afloat. But I do think the margin is going to be a lot tighter in the multifamily. I don't think you're going to see a change in pricing due to that. Too much of a movement basis point wise with cap rates, just because most sellers are unrealistic, including myself. I wouldn't move off of my assets either right now. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But, at the end of the day, I don't really think you're going to see a change there. Where you'll see a change is in NOI. So you'll definitely see a change in net operating income. And those abilities to appease those debt coverage ratios, those are going to be a tad bit trickier moving forward, and that's why you'll see banks or lenders being a little bit more conscientious on the fact of who's really at the helms of this ship.
Yep, sure.
And there's my prediction for 2021.
And there you have it.
There
you have it in a damn nutshell, people.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned earlier about a property management plan. Now, you do that for people that did the oh shit, now I own it, but they don't really have an executable plan for the third-party manager or for their own team if it's that big of an asset and they're going to try to build out their own team. Can you explain what a property management plan kind of includes and how that can be handed over to a third-party manager and you can just kind of manage it from afar?
Yeah, cool thing is that everyone will be able to grab this knowledge inside the matrix too, because that's a course.
Sure.
The asset manager course is teaching individuals how to build a management plan. But in a nutshell, again, respecting the time we have together, a management plan basically is a business plan for that particular property, and every property should have a management plan and a way of operations based upon the prospect tenant's demographic of that particular property. Everything's based around that demographics and psychographics. Demographics tell you who, psychographics tell you the why. Everything is built around that particular tenant. That's where you start. And then from there, you build out the management plan. Management plan will include marketing, will include budgeting, will include how you handle maintenance, will include the day-to-day operations all the way down to the software that you use, the type of operating systems from both soft and hard systems, meaning property management software and then procedures manuals. Guidance on how to put together, employee handbooks, and then again, detailing out the qualifying criteria, move-in procedures, day-to-day operations, dealing with your tenant from lease start to lease beginning, eviction procedures, renewal procedures, move-out procedures, maintenance procedures, emergency plan. Everything is spelled out. Risk management, everything is spelled out in the management plan. Now it can go detailed like what we just talked about, or then you can do a junior management plan, which is just a few of those KPIs that it would include. But ultimately, you should get a senior management plan put in place, hand that to the property manager, and then the property manager. A management team then executes upon that management plan. Even if you hire a third-party property manager, you need to hand them, as the syndicator or the owner of that property, you should hand that particular property management company, this is how you should operate my property. Just like if you bought a vehicle, you take it to a mechanic, this is how you handle the Escalade or the Mercedes. This is how you handle the Porsche. This is the procedures on how, because everything is different. So the manager might be a skillful property manager, but at the end of the day, this is your property. This is what you've owned. You've built out the waterfall structure and the model, telling your owners or limited partners, this is what you feel that you're going to achieve. And then you're going to hand it over to a third party without, really any prior knowledge of what's going on. No, there's a playbook that has to be handled on how you're going to achieve those prefs. And that comes only from the ownership group, or should be the asset manager within that ownership group. Everyone should. And what an asset manager is, an asset manager knows more about property management than a property manager knows. You should know more about the industry.
No, that's good.
That makes sense.
You know, where
And
it's at.
yeah, and like you said,
sure.
different models, car models, just like that. Apartment complexes, even on the other side of town, have different needs and different goals, and you really got to customize it, like with all those factors you just went through. I think people
ask
think
yourself why though, because the prospect tenants, demographics, and psychographics change from zip code to zip code.
Yep.
That's why the properties change, the different needs, the different employment.
Mm-hmm.
Everything changes, so therefore the entire property itself has to change. The rules and regulations change. Credit scoring changes. So qualifying criteria will change. All of that changes based upon a tenant's demographics and psychographic profile.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a huge insight. A lot of people overlook is just the idea that multifamily here is the same as a multifamily there. There's some overlap, obviously, but there's some important details you got to hammer out there.
80-20. 80% of it is the same. 20% of it is different. But it's in the 20% where you're going to get your ass kicked.
Yep,
That's
right.
That's
a quote.
Who wants that?
That's chiseled on a monument somewhere.
Write that one down.
It is. It's in the U.S. Library of Congress.
The tattoo.
That's right. It is in D.C. That's really good, man. I mean, and we talked about a lot of stuff here, and we're, you probably got a baby you got to pick up pretty soon, and we got to probably have a couple babies screaming. Yeah, we got probably some babies screaming we got to pay attention to too. So before we head out, obviously you got the Matrix taking off. We're looking forward to being able to come down to Tampa again here in the hopefully near term. But
someday.
I was hoping you guys were to get out for the golf. I was hoping you guys were to get out here during U.S. Open qualifiers. So we got to talk about that.
When is that?
I still don't have that.
Do you know yet?
Yeah,
they probably don't know yet. Yeah.
But I'll get that to you. So
Well, I imagine. Yeah, they're not going to set that up. They're not going to set that up until people can fly. So I mean, when it's available, it'd be sweet to come down and check it out for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to have you guys there. I doubt there are going to be galleries or anything like that. I doubt they'll let anybody on the course during the qualifiers.
We'll drink with you in the parking lot.
Yeah, we'll have we'll have a drink of Gatorade before.
Are you golfing? Are you golfing a lot?
Every day.
Dude, nice.
Nice.
Every day. So I usually try
to
get
some of those.
Get
some of those Facebook lives. Get some of those Facebook lives. Get some of those lives up there.
Right? I should. I probably Nathan wanted to do something like that because wanted to kind of document and do something on that. But we'll definitely do something. I wait for you guys to come down so we all can ride together and get out there.
I can drive your cart. I can drive your cart and carry your
great car driver.
It's still good. That's value. It's added value.
It's an important job.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Well, thanks so much for all your time today. We look forward to seeing you. And as always, appreciate it. Good value.
Always good to see my brothers.
Thanks, Bryan.
We'll see you guys later.
All right. Be blessed. See you guys soon.
Thanks, everybody.